Do you really think that a natural bodybuilder can up their calories by 1,500, go on a bulk in a 1,500 calorie surplus, and all of it turns to muscle? When has somebody gone on that dramatic of a bulk and almost all of those calories turning to muscle? I would argue never. Coach Greg, in today's video, Tristyn Lee is no longer natural. Now, in the past, I made videos saying Tristyn Lee was not Natty. Then I made a video saying I think he's natural now. But this time, I think it's beyond any reasonable doubt that Tristyn Lee is no longer natural. Now, personally, what I think is he was, in fact, enhanced back in the day, then he went off of those enhancements, but that now he's decided to do it yet again. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. This is my opinion. I'm going to show you the evidence. We're going to watch Tristyn Lee, and at the end of the video, you can decide for yourself. May 19th, Tristyn Lee officially posts a before and after photo. 137 pounds in the before photo, 177 pounds in the after photo. In 12 months, he put on 40 pounds. Now remember, 40 pounds when you weigh 137 pounds and you're only 5'5", if he is in fact that tall, is a lot harder to gain than if you're, for example, 237 pounds, you put on 40 pounds. As a percentage, as a proportion of his size, 40 pounds from being 137 is a lot. It's so much so that even with performance-enhancing drugs, it's truly remarkable. Imagine you're 137 pounds right now. You want to develop your physique. You've been training for perhaps 5+ years. Remember, Tristyn Lee has no longer got new gains. He's been training his entire life. Suddenly, you then put on 40 pounds. 40 pounds of muscle is essentially how much muscle I put in the last 20 years. It's absolutely remarkable. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, but he went on a bulk. A lot of that is water retention, fat, and so on. Look at the photo on the left and look at the photo on the right. Which photo is he in fact leaner? I would say perhaps he's slightly higher in body fat, maybe 1, possibly 2%. And so out of those 40 pounds that he gained, it was probably 35 pounds of pure muscle. Massive thank you to Jared_Feather for the help so far with this bulk. Couldn't have made the progress I did without his guidance. Remember, Tristyn Lee was once a carnivore dieter. He wasn't eating carbs, he was perhaps under-eating, he wasn't taking his health as serious as he should have. And so is it in fact possible that by just going on a bulk, eating in a calorie surplus, that he would put on all of this muscle? I don't think so. And let's be honest, is this called a bulk or is this main gaining? And remember, when you main gain, which is what I preached, is when you get to a healthy body fat percentage of you roughly keep that same body fat percentage and you simply slowly build muscle over time. And so perhaps in a year from now, you're 5, maybe even 10 pounds bigger, but at about the same body fat percentage. Now, if you're shredded single-digit body fat, I encourage people to go on a bulk. Perhaps you're too lean. If you're not eating enough calories, you can't build that muscle. But if you're already healthy, you're at your ideal body fat percentage, remember, that is within a certain range. For most people, it's somewhere between 10 and 20% body fat. Then as long as you're within those guidelines, you can in fact build plenty of muscle. And so what it appears in my eyes is that Tristyn Lee main gained himself to gaining 40 pounds in a year. I don't see a bulk and cut. Does it look like he bulked and then cut? Did he go up to 200 pounds and then cut? Does it look like he's at 20+% body fat? Does it look like he got sloppy? Doesn't even look close to being at 15% body fat. If I had to guess, I would say this man is close to 10% body fat. And next up, he's posing with a top Mr. Olympia competitor, Terrence Ruffin. I literally competed against this man. He won the Niagara Pro Show. I placed 4th in the show. The guy is a monster. He's only 5'5" tall, approximately the same height as Tristyn Lee, but he is a mountain of a man. At 5'5", he's weighing in close to 200 pounds. Tristyn Lee is literally close to the same size as Terrence Ruffin. Remember, I met Tristyn Lee in person. I did his body fat percentage. I flexed with him. And trust me, Tristyn Lee in comparison to myself is a lot smaller. Terrence is bigger than myself, and in this video, Tristyn Lee looks nearly as big as Terrence Ruffin. Not saying that he has as great a physique as Terrence, but his size is getting close to what Terrence is. And so imagine, Tristyn went from 137 pounds to standing toe-to-toe with a Mr. Olympia competitor in 1 year. And so let's simply argue this. Let's say he did do this while being natural. What the heck would he look like if he was enhanced? If he put on 40 pounds, which 35 pounds is muscle in 1 year, how much would he put on if he was on test, trend, and so on? Would he have put on 80 pounds? Would he be twice the size of Terrence Ruffin? Would Tristyn Lee be an open class bodybuilder competing as a super heavyweight? Of course not. It's not realistic to assume that he could have put on 80 pounds in a single year. It makes no sense. And so what I believe, at least in my own eyes, is that Tristyn Lee went on a bulk while taking performance-enhancing drugs. He was eating in a calorie surplus. He was eating carbs. He changed his diet. And everything was in order. He had a training coach telling me exactly what to do. And considering the fact that Tristyn Lee has had body dysmorphia in the past, he was trying to maintain sub 5% body fat, do you not think that there is pressure, not only from his fans, but on himself to look a certain way? And so seeing as he said, hey, I need to have more size, I need more muscle, perhaps he wants to compete in bodybuilding. Can you imagine the pressure to not be natty? Especially in today's day and age where it seems every second influencer is saying, I take this, I take that. They're glorifying steroid use. And so how big of a stretch is it to assume that Tristyn Lee would no longer be natural? Now remember, he's not going to come out and say it. He's not going to say, hey, I took this, I took that. He's not going to glorify steroid use. He doesn't have to announce he's taking anything. He doesn't have to tell us what he's doing. It's his own business. But notice, he's not saying natural transformation. He's not using the words, I did this while being natural, I did this 100% drug-free, and so I would have to assume the reason for that is because he doesn't want to lie. People, for the most part, they don't like lying. It's better to avoid the question, to avoid saying something you don't need to. Unlike, for example, Jeff Seed, who says, hey, I'm a lifetime natural. I haven't taken anything ever. Really, Jeff? You had perhaps 20 pounds more muscle in high school than you do now at the age of 29. You were on the Olympia stage in men's physique, and now you're competing in a drug-tested, natural amateur organization. And so you really want us to believe that you had such amazing genetics that you put on all that muscle in high school, and that somehow you peaked as a teenager and since that time have regressed? At the age of 29, I don't think that's how it works. And so in comparison, imagine this. Imagine that Tristyn Lee is 100% natural right now. You see his size, he's currently 177 pounds. In 10 years from now, do you think that Tristyn Lee is going to lose 20, 25 pounds of muscle? That is exactly what's happened to Jeff Seed. And so when I say, I don't think Jeff Seed was natural as a teenager, can you see why? And so when I say I don't think Tristyn Lee is natural in this transformation, can you also see why? Bros are like 5'1". Well, I know that Rough Diesel is 4'11". He jokingly posts he's 4'11". I know that standing next to him, I'm slightly higher than him. I'm about 5'6¼ inches tall. Rough Diesel about 5'5". Tristyn Lee, I assume, was 5'4". Perhaps he's rounding up to 5'5". Remember, anyone under 5'9" is always rounding up in their height, except for Coach Greg, perhaps a few others. But for the most part, the short kings of the world, they're all exaggerating their height. Any of my friends that say they're 5'9", for example, they're the same height as me. And I'm thinking, how are you 5'9"? We're the same height. This is what people are doing. They're perhaps measuring their height while wearing shoes with shoe lifts and so on. This is what short people are going to do. He's big like the top 5 Mr. Olympia, and he claims natty. He is natty. If he was on gear, his delts would be a lot bigger. Apparently, if you're on gear, your delts are huge. But if you're not on gear, then you could put 40 pounds of muscle, but it's just not in your delts. And so that is the clear tell sign. This is ridiculous. You guys automatically assume that just because you're on steroids, you have big delts. Here's a fact. Most people injecting performance-enhancing drugs are doing so in their delts. If you do an injection in your delt, there's going to be inflammation. It's going to swell up. You perhaps will look like you have bigger delts, but it's actually inflammation. The oils that you're injecting combined with the inflammation going to give you a more rounded delt appearance. He's not even big enough to look like he's on gear. Look at the delts of any user, LOL, that's what blows up first, since a lot of androgen receptors on there. He's been training consistently with diet and no refined sugar for the last 6 years. So yes, it's achievable. The internet has rotted y'all brains. And so what this person wants us to believe is that Tristyn Lee's been training his ass off for 6 years. No sugars, no refined carbs, none of this shit. And that suddenly he put on 40 pounds. In the previous 6 years, perhaps he gained a couple pounds here and there each and every year, was making slow and steady progress. I would argue that he's actually gotten smaller before this transformation. And that suddenly it all just clicked. And why is that? Well, clearly anyone that takes steroids could be much bigger than 177 pounds. I mean, he's 5'5", 177. Anyone that's on steroid be at least 200. I mean, that's how it works, right? I mean, I, Coach Greg, am taller than Tristyn Lee, and I weighed 182 pounds this morning, 5 pounds more than Tristyn Lee, and I'm not Natty. I'm literally on HRT, and I've used performance-enhancing drugs for 10 years, and I'm an IFBB pro. But, of course, I must be natural because my delts are not massive. And so I'm natural, right? I mean, after all, if I was unnatty, I'd weigh at least, what, 220? Anyone that takes steroids clearly weighs at least 200 pounds. This is complete and utter nonsense. The majority of people who take steroids, they don't even gain that much muscle. You're thinking, yeah, they all gain 40, 50 pounds. No, it's because you're being shown the top 1% of the top 1%. The best transformations are the ones that you're seeing. And so you assume anyone that takes steroids, well, they're going to look like Derek Lunsford. Growing like a weed. Tristyn Lee responds to it, trying to sap. I don't know if that means like ASAP, but when you're growing like a weed means you're growing excessively quick. And if you're doing so while being natural, it's not the case. There's no time that I've ever heard somebody say, I'm growing like a weed while being natural. Growing like a weed, it's on steroids. When you take steroids, you grow much quicker than when you're natural. How strong is Tristyn Lee? Well, while weighing 177 pounds, he's literally dumbbell pressing, incline, 150 in each arm. That's 300 pounds. Stronger than most bodybuilders, and so very impressive strength. And so if he is in fact natural, if he was enhanced, what would he be pressing? The 220s? Would he be giving Larry Wheels a run for his money? Probably not. Now remember, just because I'm saying he's not natural doesn't mean I dislike him. He's not a liar. He's not misrepresenting himself. He's not saying I'm using this supplement or that supplement. He's not saying he's using Turk Builder, GO2 Max, Acti Builder, or G-Test. He's not saying he's using any of these things and then saying he put on 40 pounds of muscle by taking a natural supplement. Now, although these natural supplements do in fact work, of course they do, and you can get them on my website, code Greg 15% off, they're not going to help you to gain 40 pounds in a single year. And even if you were to take steroids, test, trend, and so on, I still highly doubt you're going to put on 40 pounds. I weighed 182 pounds this morning. Does anyone think that if I went on a cycle for perhaps 1 year straight, test, trend, D-ball, Anavar, GH, peptide, SARMs, all of it, do you think that in a year from now, I would be 222 pounds with approximately 7% body fat that I have right now? I don't think so, because if I was, I would be competing in the Mr. Olympia in the 212 division. That would be a shit ton of muscle. Even with steroids, putting on 40 pounds in a year, absolutely remarkable. Not many people can do this. Been eating good, a little too good. Just posted what I've been eating on a bulk and measuring my arms on YouTube, averaging 4,000 plus calories, 550 plus grams per day. And so do you really think that he's training 100% natural, that suddenly he can go from eating perhaps 2,000 to 2,500 calories a day, and now he can eat 4,000 plus calories a day while not gaining body fat? Do you know what nutrient partitioning is? When you eat nutrients, foods, and it turns to muscle, this is nutrient partitioning. When you're on steroids, for example, testosterone or tren, the food that you're eating, rather than turning to body fat, a lot of it is turning to muscle. That's why when you're on enhancements, performance-enhancing drugs, you can eat a lot more and remain at the same body fat percentage. And so Tristyn Lee has upped his calories by about 1,500 calories a day. Do you really think that a natural bodybuilder can up their calories by 1,500, go on a bulk in a 1,500 calorie surplus, and all of it turns to muscle? When has somebody gone on that dramatic of a bulk and almost all those calories turning to muscle? I would argue never. Let me know in the comments section, do you believe Tristyn Lee is natural? Do you believe he's enhanced? Do you think I'm just a hater, or am I just preaching facts? Will Tristyn Lee set foot on stage? And if so, what division is he going to compete in? How is he going to do? Let me hear it in the comments section. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Please like the video if you liked it. Watch the top video, skip the bottom, only watch the top. The cookbooks, the training books, the Circle Diet book, you can get these in PDF and hard copy on the website. Head over there right now. Don't forget about training plans by me and my team. Also, the Harder Than Last Time clothing line. And if you're interested in the free diet and training program, it's close to 50 pages. Head over to the website, join the 300,000 plus newsletter subscribers. And until next time, I am out.